They ruled the death world charts for centuries. The Varnak brutal, bioengineered apex predators from a planet so hostile that storms peeled metal off ships and gravity could crush bones. Their warriors didn't just survive. They thrived in environments that would kill most life in seconds. Every species in the galaxy feared them, respected them, and stepped aside when the Varnak marched. They were the top of the evolutionary chain. Or so they thought. That belief shattered the moment they encountered a strange blue planet tucked away on a quiet galactic arm-Earth. No scales, no fangs, just soft-skinned bipeds who smiled too much and offered snacks to dangerous animals. The Varnak laughed. Right up until they saw a human punch a predator unconscious to save a dog. What they discovered next would shake the foundation of everything they believed about dominance, death worlds, and the terrifying adaptability of the human species. The apex of evolution, the Varnak, were not just another species in the galactic census. They were the cautionary tale. Over the centuries, civilizations across the Orion spiral spoke their name with quiet dread. They weren't cruel by nature, but they were born of a world that punished weakness. Their home planet, Zertal, was classified a Class 9 death world, the second highest threat level ever documented by the Galactic Survey Union. On Zertal, gravity was 2.4 times that of Earth's, and the atmosphere was laced with caustic gases. Lightning storms stretched for weeks, and tectonic instability meant the ground never stood still. Predator life evolved to survive in crushing pressure and toxic winds. To exist there, a species had to evolve armor-plated skin, redundant organ systems, and lightning-fast reflexes. The Varnak had done more. They had risen above all threats, built cities inside volcanic calderas, and dominated their food chain with terrifying precision. Their biology was extraordinary. Each Varnak had 4 hearts, a double-layered skeleton, and muscles that regenerated during combat. Their soldiers trained from childhood in high-gravity chambers, not to become stronger, but to stay relevant. In their culture, to show emotion in battle was considered weakness. Pain was expected. Survival was duty, and conquest was tradition. When the Galactic Council first met them, they were welcomed, cautiously praised for their technological prowess, but watched closely for their aggressive tendencies. The Varnak didn't bother with flattery. They knew their reputation preceded them. Over 50 recorded conflicts had ended with the same pattern: blitz strikes, rapid planetary dominance, and an ultimatum to the survivors: submit or become extinct. None had resisted for long. By consensus of multiple galactic civilizations, Zertal and its people were named the Apex Deathworlders, the most dangerous evolved predators in known space. It wasn't just a scientific classification. It was a psychological barrier. Even powerful empires thought twice before confronting the Varnak. After all, if evolution was war, then the Varnak were its final product. That is, until a strange signal was intercepted near the galactic edge. It wasn't encrypted. It wasn't aggressive. It was casual. The message began like this: "Hello. This is Earth, third planet of the Sol system. We come in peace unless you don't." At first, the Varnak Council dismissed it as the rambling of a primitive race. The signal lacked the formal structure of established diplomatic codes. It included music, visual data of hairless bipeds in awkward clothing, and bizarrely footage of exploding fireworks for entertainment. The word humans was used repeatedly. They called their planet Earth. Their technology seemed moderately advanced, but nothing alarming. A scout vessel was sent not to initiate war, but to observe. A standard procedure, but the report that came back would change everything. The blue planet, the Varnak scout vessel, Vratal, arrived in Earth's orbit cloaked in an advanced electromagnetic veil. Their mission was simple: observe, document, and determine if these humans posed any potential threat, or if they might serve as a future conquest. The crew expected to find a typical pre-warp civilization, perhaps aggressive, technologically unstable, but ultimately manageable. What they found instead was chaos. Beautiful, structured chaos. Earth was unlike any world they had catalogued. From space. It shimmered in colors most Varnock eyes couldn't fully process: deep blues, greens, browns, and white storms sweeping over continents. But it wasn't just the aesthetics that stunned the observers. It was the diversity. In one hemisphere, deserts boiled under the sun. On the other, frozen tundras carved through mountain ranges. Oceans stretched so deep they distorted magnetic fields. Rainforests teemed with life forms that mimicked, hunted, or poisoned their prey. Every inch of this world screamed danger, yet the dominant species had managed to spread across all of it. That defied every Varnock understanding of evolution. On Zertal, survival required adaptation to a single type of extreme: high gravity, toxic storms, or thermal threats. But Earth had all of them, often within a few thousand kilometers of each other. A species surviving in such a place would need to be extraordinarily flexible, or incredibly foolish. The scouts accessed global broadcasts. It was easy. Human networks were absurdly unsecured by galactic standards. What they saw unsettled them. More than Earth's terrain, humans laughed at danger. Documentaries showed humans swimming with sharks, hiking across volcanoes, and handling venomous snakes for fun. One video depicted a man skydiving from the edge of the atmosphere with nothing but a thin suit. Others showed individuals climbing frozen cliffs, diving into ice water, racing machines faster than sound. In Varnock culture, such behavior would be considered suicidal. On Earth, it was called extreme sports. Then came the real shock: military. Archives publicly shared by Earth governments. The Varnock crew watched footage of human wars, some recent, others ancient, and were stunned by the sheer violence, scale, and emotional intensity. These were not instinct-driven predators. Humans made war with planning, strategy, and art. They waged battles with drones, satellites, and machines, but also with knives and fists when needed. And they recorded it all for education and entertainment. Despite lacking natural weapons or built-in armor, humans had created tools that rivaled orbital artillery. More disturbingly, they trained their minds to withstand trauma through stories, games, and simulated war. Earth's most popular video games, combat simulations. Their favorite films, tales of resistance, sacrifice, vengeance, and survival. What species thrives on stories about their own extinction? And then, of course, there was the wildlife. The Varnock began compiling a database of Earth species. Every hour, it grew more absurd. A tiny insect, the bullet ant, whose sting induced hours of agony used in coming-of-age ritual. A marine box. Jellyfish with venom that could kill a human in minutes. Amphibians that secreted neurotoxins from their skin. Birds that mimicked human speech. Bears, crocodiles, big cats, venomous spiders, wolves, electric eels, parasites, viruses. Earth wasn't just a death world. It was a murder planet zoo. And yet, the humans had pets. Domesticated wolves that lived in homes. Predatory cats that humans let sit on their chests. Poisonous snakes kept in glass tanks for fun. Some humans even befriended wild animals. It wasn't that they had conquered danger. They had become comfortable with it. A miscalculated test. The Varnock Scout Team's report reached the High Council on Zertal within days. Most of the council was unimpressed, undisciplined, emotionally unstable. They rely on machines, scoffed Counselor Vorik. A lower class, death world species, adaptable, perhaps, but no match for Varnock biology. But a minority disagreed. High General Threzen studied the footage closely. He noted something others dismissed: the way humans responded to stress. Unlike most species, which froze or retreated, humans adapted in real time. They displayed no psychic shielding, yet showed almost no psychological collapse in extreme conditions. He watched again as a soldier, bleeding and cornered, calmly applied a tourniquet, reloaded his weapon, and charged toward his enemies. "They don't just survive hardship," Thresin muttered. "They seek it." Still, the council voted for a soft contact test, a simulated threat, limited in scope, to gauge Earth's military and political response. The objective wasn't conquest. It was evaluation. The plan was simple. Deploy a single stealth cruiser near a remote human outpost, a research facility in Antarctica, and stage a mock incursion. The ship's weapons would be set to non-lethal. Outputs: Varnock commandos would land, disable communication, and issue a harmless but intimidating ultimatum. Their goal was to provoke fear, observe Earth's response time, and determine if humans were truly as unstable and dangerous as the scouts believed. The drop occurred at 3:17 UTC. The Varnock team landed in silence. Antarctic winds whipped across the ice, but their suits held firm. The facility was lightly guarded, only 6 humans inside. As expected, there was confusion at first. Then resistance, but not from the guards, from the scientists. One of them, unarmed, wearing only a lab coat, charged the lead Varnock with a fire extinguisher. Another tried to set off the fire suppression system to block infrared scans. They fought without hesitation, without fear, without weapons. One Varnock soldier, stunned by a blow to the skull with a steel thermos, muttered over the comms, "These aren't warriors. They're civilians. Why aren't they afraid?" Within 7 minutes, a distress signal had been sent out. Within 15, a military response had launched from a nearby naval base. With the psychology of a predator, the Varnock Council was shaken, but they would never admit it publicly. On the surface, they dismissed the Antarctica incident as a minor miscalculation. Yet behind closed doors, the analysis of human behavior went into overdrive. They commissioned xenopsychologists, biocomputational models, and intelligence experts to study what had gone wrong. The answers they found were not just surprising, they were deeply disturbing. Humans, it turned out, were biologically fragile by galactic standards. Their bones were light, their skin thin, and their sensory range limited. Compared to Varnock physiology, they were laughably inefficient. But what made them dangerous wasn't in their muscles. It was in their minds. Unlike most sapient species, humans thrived on unpredictability. Their brains weren't hardwired for stability, they were built for chaos. Neurochemical studies revealed abnormally high thresholds for adrenaline, dopamine, and cortisol. Under extreme pressure, most species suffered cognitive degradation. Humans? They became focused. In fact, Earth had developed entire sports, careers, and entertainment genres around simulated stress combat video games, survival challenges, action thrillers. They trained themselves to remain calm during explosions, hostage scenarios, and wilderness isolation. The Varnock could not understand this. How could a species use fear and danger as recreation? One intelligence analyst, a veteran of 5 planetary campaigns, submitted a now infamous report titled, "Humans, the species that trains for war even when there's no war." The document detailed how humans drilled during peacetime, engaged in violent physical sports, and role-played apocalyptic scenarios on a weekly basis, all to remain ready. The report also noted their unique capacity to act irrationally, sacrificing themselves for strangers, rushing into danger for ideals, and forming alliances based not on logic, but on emotion. But perhaps the most unsettling trait, empathy. Humans had a well-documented history of forming emotional bonds across species, even with beings that posed them harm. They could tame wild animals, bond with the eye, and even grieve the deaths of enemies. This made their behavior impossible to predict. One simulation predicted that if Earth ever faced extermination, humans would not flee. They would resist to the last child. Worse, they'd probably film it and inspire 1,000 other species to join them. This wasn't just warrior instinct. This was cultural. Madness, and it made them uniquely suited for long-term survival in a hostile galaxy. In the following weeks, quiet inquiries were made by several Varnock factions to the Galactic Council. Could Earth be monitored? Could its weapon exports be restricted? Would the humans consider a voluntary military registry? The Council responded with silence. They had already received a direct message from Earth's planetary coalition. It read, "To the unknown forces behind the Antarctica incident, we know you're watching. We recovered your tech, and we've already reverse-engineered the basics. Next time, come for tea instead of trouble. We make great allies terrible enemies. Yours sincerely, Earth." Rewriting the galactic order, the incident on Earth triggered a quiet shift in the galaxy's political dynamics, one that would not be officially acknowledged for years but was already felt in every corner of the Council chambers. The Varnock High Council, once proud and unchallenged, had lost something they had never truly experienced before: certainty. Certainty that their might was supreme. Certainty that evolution had crowned them the apex species. Certainty that no one else could possibly match the strength born of Zertal's brutal ecosystem. But Earth didn't match them. It broke the mold entirely. Other species began to notice. Whispers circulated in political backchannels and interstellar trade zones. Reports leaked of Earth's ability to reverse-engineer alien technology at unprecedented speed. A single recovered Varnock helmet had, within weeks, led to advancements in atmospheric shielding and power core miniaturization. And the humans had done it not by mimicking the tech, but by improving it. A Ciliari diplomat famously remarked in a private session, "Give them a rock and they'll make a reactor. Give them a starship and they'll make it fly faster than yours." But it wasn't just technology. Earth began quietly establishing relations with minor systems, those who had long lived under the shadow of Varnock expansionism. Trade agreements, scientific exchanges, cultural diplomacy. Humans leaned into their strength. Relationships. They sent ambassadors who smiled easily, listened attentively, and shared stories of endurance, recovery, and resilience. To struggling species, humans became a symbol of hope. To conquerors like the Varnock, they became a threat not of war, but of influence. This was a war the Varnock had never fought before. They had no defense against charisma, against collaboration, against a species whose strongest asset was its ability to turn former enemies into allies. And still, the question remained, why? Why did humans, a species born without claws, scales, venom, or natural armor, become so dangerous? The leading theory came from a cross-species psychology symposium months after the Antarctica incident. A human sociologist, Dr. Asha Malik, addressed the room full of diplomats, scholars, and xenopsychologists from across the galaxy. Her answer was simple: because we weren't born the strongest or the fastest. We weren't born to survive. So we had to choose to survive. Every single generation. She clicked a device and displayed image after image: burned cities rebuilt, storm-shattered towns restored, people digging through rubble for strangers, soldiers carrying wounded enemies, civilians helping those they had every reason to hate. Then, an image of Earth from space. Quiet, blue, alive. We've been to the brink dozens of times: plague, war, famine, disaster. And yet, we're still here, not because we're perfect, but because we refuse to give up. There was silence in the chamber. For the first time, the Varnock representative did not speak. They had studied Earth's strength, but now they were beginning to understand Earth's soul. A new kind of apex. Months passed. Then a year. The Varnock remained quiet, not out of fear, but out of reflection. For a species raised on strength and forged in fire, the idea that someone could match them through kindness, will, and adaptability was almost unthinkable. But reality had shifted. The Galactic Council quietly reviewed its Death World classification chart. Zertal, long holding the top position as the most dangerous naturally evolved environment, was now listed as number 2. Earth was reclassified as unranked, not because it was unworthy, but because it defied conventional metrics. Its mix of environmental extremes, biological unpredictability, and psychological resilience made it impossible to evaluate by standard models. The official designation was chilling in its understatement. EARTH Class X, anomalous, threat, level undefined. Engage with caution. The Varnok High Council never formally acknowledged Earth as superior. Pride, after all, was still part of their nature. But things changed. Their war fleets were no longer seen near the Sol system. Their scouts were withdrawn. Instead, a diplomatic request was sent to the United Earth Coalition, an invitation to join a neutral scientific accord on advanced survival tactics. The wording was careful, respectful, even humble. The message ended with one line: "We would like to learn from you." And Earth responded, as it always had, with openness, curiosity, and a quiet warning beneath the smile. Centuries later, historians would look back on this moment, not as the beginning of a war, but as a turning point in galactic civilization. For millennia, the galaxy had defined power through conquest, genetics, and fear. But the arrival of humans rewrote the very definition of dominance, because true apex species don't just kill threats, they inspire others to survive. They adapt faster, think deeper, and form bonds stronger than blood. They don't seek destruction, they offer choice, ally, or adversary. And if you choose the wrong one, they don't raise their voice, they simply raise a fleet. Epilogue. In a quiet corner of the Potre galaxy, a small memorial exists, nothing extravagant. A piece of scorched Varnok alloy, fused with human steel, set in Antarctic ice. Etched below it, they thought they were the apex Deathworlders until they met us. And below that, in English and Varnok script, we come in peace. Unless you don't. You don't.